So here we are with the piece of dough that we just put through the roller. We put it through on 5. Like I said, it goes up to 6, but for making noodles of any kind, 6 is really just too thin. It won't work. So there are 2 ways to cut noodles: with a knife, with the rollers. I personally like to do it with a knife. I've spent all this time making this. If I put it through there, then it's going to look like I bought it in the store. I want it to look like I made it, so I cut it with my hands. A long knife is helpful, but here's the trick. You have some flour on it, and as I said, this is just perfect dough. It doesn't stick together. You can pull it apart, you can crumple it up. It's very sturdy. I take the dough, make sure it's nice and smooth, and then I fold it, and then I fold it again. So now I have a piece that's shorter than my knife. Now I'm going to make wide noodles. Just cut, cut, and you see I'm not measuring them. I don't care if they're slightly different. I want them to look homemade. And does that look homemade? Of course it does. Now, if you really think it's a little too rough, you can trim off the ends, if that makes you feel more comfortable. But again, I say when you go to all the trouble of making pasta by hand, it should look like you made it by hand. If I could have only one dish for the rest of my life, it would be this with a duck ragu sauce. Now there's another way you can cut. A little roller. You can use one of these that gives you a ruffled edge, or you can use a pizza cutter if you have one of those in your house. And I'll just show how you use it. I mean, it couldn't be simpler. You just roll it along the dough. And then it separates, and you have ruffled pasta. Pizza cutter, same idea. And then when you have the dough done, I'm being a little messy here because I'm trying to show you these techniques. When the dough is ready, what you want to do is get your towel out, and you lay the dough on the towel, and you don't have to cover it now because you're going to be cooking it soon. But just keep it someplace where stuff won't get on if you want to cover it because you want to keep it really clean. But if you're going to cook in a few minutes, this is fine. You also can let it dry. And here is some that I made yesterday. Not very glamorous looking, but it's dry. And you cook this for maybe a couple minutes in water. A lot less than you would any of the other ones that we talked about earlier, the ones that come in the box. Those are like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. This, 2-3 minutes usually. But once it's dry, it might take a little longer. But the wet here, that, 2 or 3 minutes. It'll float to the top and it'll be done. So that's about cutting pasta by hand. I just cut the edge to get us a little bit of a smoother edge. Now this one has a thin and it has a thicker. I'm going to use the thicker this time. You hold your pasta up, you put it up to it, and it begins to go through and it'll come out the bottom. And you just catch that with your hand. It won't stick. You just keep rolling it and rolling it until it's all the way through. Now, you've probably seen movies or something where they have spaghetti or pasta hanging all over the room. They've got it on sticks and everything. You can do that. But if you've done the pasta correctly, you can just lay it down. All of these, you can see, they're not sticking together. I haven't added any extra flour. They're fine. So you can just lay them out. You can lay them out on a board. You can lay them out here until it's time for it to be served. And then all that you want to do when you put it in is you want to put it in a little bit slowly. And then, of course, stir it while it's in the water. But these aren't going to stick together now, and they won't stick together later. Now, this is one of the pieces that we put through to number 5. And as I said, there is a number 6. But it's too thin for most purposes. However, if you want to make the most wonderful lasagna, you put it through to 6. Because what you get are these very thin sheets And if you make a light lasagna, I make one with just fresh mozzarella and tomato sauce and a lot of basil and ricotta. It's just feathery light. So let's put this through to 6. You can see it now. Oh, I have to move the handle over because it was being used for the other. We're on 6. We get the end in and you begin to turn. We're going to try the other end. And here it comes. This is very thin and it's very long. I have to double it up. And there it is. This very long piece of pasta. And you can imagine if you cut this, you could probably, with this one sheet, if you cut it there, let's just cut it. You'll see. Now, you keep these raggedy edges because, again, that tells people you made this by hand. We've got 1. We've got 2. And we've got 3. So imagine these would be the start in the bottom of your lasagna pan. Now, some people put these in raw and just use some extra sauce. I think they come out gummy. So before I make my lasagna, I put these in a big pan of boiling water just for a moment, like not even a minute, just so they're no longer raw. And people will love you if you make this dish.